Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shockwave48 here. Welcome back to another video. And today we got some more intel My Hero Academia of the characters who is about to get a new Quirk awakening, and it's gonna be Uraraka. Now, she's amazing. I mean, she's very powerful. She can touch people and make them float. It's a limit how much she can use her gravity, and sometimes she'll get sick after when she drops the person or whatever she uses to drop things. So she's about to get a new power up. I don't know what it actually does, but I think we'll probably get some information out of this video. So I'm looking forward to understand what her actual power awakening will be. But as demonstrated, I don't know further than that, but we'll probably figure out more on the next video when that time comes. So yeah, so let's go ahead and check this out, guys. Let's do this.
List for My Hero Academia chapter 376 are on the way, so in this video we're going to talk about my predictions for next chapter of MHA and everything that I can see maybe being set up or that could reasonably happen in this next chapter. First off, we're going to start with what I think is probably one of the most obvious things that I do think is coming up in this arc, and that is going to be Ochako awakens her quirk. Over this arc of My Hero Academia so far, we've seen multiple characters get some sort of upgrade or some sort of useful kind of addition to their quirk. We saw it recently just happen with Koda. We also saw it happening with Bakugo. This is the time for people to finally level up if they haven't gotten an awakening or anything so far. So I do think Ochako making it into the twice, or I guess all for one and Toga and all those other villains area. So I do think that Ochako, after making it into the twice and Toga and all for one area, is going to be able to have to do something to be helpful, because I don't think Horikoshi would just put her there to be useless. And we do know that Horikoshi has referred to Hawks and Ochako in this arc as the two lights of hope for the battle for the heroes. So right now, in this utterly hopeless situation where you have twice, all for one, and Toga together against Endeavor and Hawks, who are both completely out of it, I think the new addition to the battlefield, being Ochako, is definitely going to make a massive difference. But how exactly would she do that, right? We know that Ochako is really good with the gunhead martial arts, but I don't think that's really going to cut it in this battle. So all I can see going on with Ochako in this section to make her useful is a quirk awakening. But what would that quirk awakening be? I think I actually really like that question, and I might do a video breaking down 3 different quirk awakenings I could think up for Ochako. But to keep it really easy, I think Ochako's quirk awakening would probably be something very simple, like the ability to spread her ability to other things that are touching what she initially touched. Very much similar to how Shigaraki's ability evolved in the My Villain Academia arc. Meaning very much like in Heroes Rising, where Ochako puts her hand on all those giant different rocks that they drop on 9. I think that she could touch one rock, and then her zero gravity ability would then transfer over to all the other rocks that were touching that initial rock. This would very much help in dealing with the twice clones, or at least a large section of them, because if Ochako is able to get her zero gravity on some of the twice clones, since a lot of them are very close to each other, and we've seen they climb over each other and they're almost always in contact, forming big waves, I could see her launching a large section of the twice army up into the air, and maybe even doing what Himiko Toga did against Curious in My Villain Academia by dropping the twices down to the ground, which is pretty funny considering Ochako has already told Toga that she would never take pleasure in dropping someone using her quirk. In that same vein, I'm also expecting some sort of interaction between All For One and Ochako. These are two characters that I don't believe have ever interacted before, and with All For One talking about how he constantly is thinking about Deku when he was in jail, I do think he is going to have some thoughts about Ochako.
Wait, Deku was in jail?
Here, but whether or not he's going to take Ochako over to the Deku area or do anything to her, we have no idea, but I do expect some sort of interaction between those two characters. The second thing that I think could very possibly happen in this chapter is actually Froppy's death. Now look, I think if we were going to lose any UA student, one of the best choices would
Froppy's
be
gonna die?
That's not because I hate Froppy or I dislike Froppy or anything. I know that sounds a little crazy. I actually am a big fan of the character, but I'm reminded of the time where the whole class came together to help her handle her emotions during the Bakugo rescue section of Season 3. And ever since then, I've wondered what sort of reaction we get from the class if we lost Froppy. Also, considering the parallels between Ochako and Deku, we've seen Deku's closest friend injured really bad to the brink of death by an All For One user, so could it now be time for Ochako's closest friend Froppy to meet the same fate? Froppy is a character that we've seen have a very strong effect on both of these characters, Ochako and Deku, with Deku even taking one of her moves and turning it into a Black Whip attack, calling it Black Whip Froppy style. That was always a little goofy. But if you remember early on in the series, as early as Season 1, Froppy was actually one of the first characters in the class that Deku really spent any time with, especially in a real hero versus villain situation, because if you remember, Froppy and Mineta were the two that Deku was paired with in the USJ incident, accident, and Deku definitely learned a lot about how amazing Froppy is in that arc, allowing the two to build a solid friendship that I'm sure still continues to this day. Another thing that you might remember from that arc is that we actually almost lost Froppy all the way back in season 1 when Shigaraki was nearly about to decay her using his quirk. Now we have another situation where we have a quirk user who uses his hand to activate his quirk, and if he gets his hands on Froppy, I mean, at the very least, she's going to lose her quirk. You know, maybe he's not going to do anything worse than that, but I could definitely see All For One trying to crush the students, especially after Jiro's ability was able to wake up the quirk users inside of All For One. I do think a couple things aren't going exactly to plan for him, and in an attempt to get things back on track, he might start dropping a couple bodies. Next, I think we could possibly get a look at a new area that we haven't seen yet, like Shiketsu. Shiketsu High, we've been told, can connect to UA High and form a sort of link. We know UA is flying through the skies, and Deku's Shigaraki battle is only going to continue from here. With the foreshadowing about UA and Shiketsu maybe turning into a mech or something when they link, I doubt that UA won't survive until we make it there, but what exactly will happen and which heroes will join the fight if we get there? I think while UA is operating as a massive prison for Shigaraki, it isn't yet complete, and we will get some new functionality once it pairs with Shiketsu. At the same time, I think heroes like Inasa, Kami, and Meatball are all in that area and could be useful against Shigaraki, with Inasa's wind potentially coming in handy since Shigaraki can't decay air, and of course with Kami's illusions
I ain't gonna lie, they're quite powerful.
As Meatball's ability to potentially turn Shigaraki's extra limbs into flesh, I think there's still a chance that the other student heroes can come in at least to make some sort of effort to be helpful. Speaking of returning characters, I do think there's another pair of characters that could return in this chapter. We've seen Kurogiri being released by Spinner, and since then we've learned that Kurogiri is making his way to all the other battlefields to round up the League of Villains members, or at least ask them what they want to do at this stage of the war. This happens first by opening a portal for Dabi, who clearly wanted to go to the Endeavor area, and then next Kurogiri opens a portal for Himiko Toga to that same area as well. We've seen that eventually Kurogiri ends up in Aizo's area along with Present Mike, but could Kurogiri's programming to save Shigaraki and his allies also include members like Mr. Compress, who was arrested previously along with Gigantomachia, who is currently being held in Kirishima and Mina's area? Truthfully, this in and of itself could be a really great reason specifically for us to cut back away to Kirishima's area, which we haven't seen in a while, as they're fighting the villain who killed Midnight. And lastly, I do think sooner or later we are going to see exactly what's going on with Shigaraki's body, whether or not All For One needs to be there for that to complete, and Deku will need a break, or at the very least, he's going to need some sort of help, right? We were already told by one of the One For All users that Deku has to end this very quickly or the whole world is doomed. I believe the time limit was 5 minutes, and we don't know how much time has passed until then. I can't imagine that much because of the speed that Deku is moving at, but we do know that there is a time limit on Deku's ability to continue this fight, and Horikoshi being a massive fan of One Piece, I do think he's going to do the Gear 4 kind of situation here, where Deku eventually runs out of energy and does have to recharge a little bit or do something, and someone else is going to have to keep Shigaraki busy for a little bit, or at least work together with Deku to get the battle to end. Now, of course, I think that that's going to end up being Bakugo, who eventually is going to wake up from his injuries, and now with the help of everything that Ed Shot did for him, it's probably going to be helping Deku, and I do think that Deku and Bakugo together against Shigaraki is going to be very, very difficult for him to deal with, especially if Deku is able to use Gear Shift on Bakugo and himself at the same time. That's just going to be insane. If Gear Shift can turn 100% One For All to 120%, I wonder what it could do for Bakugo in his new form. But I suppose before Deku gets any help, we are going to have to see him struggle a little bit. So I do think Shigaraki is going to turn the tables for a little while and turn the battle on to Deku, and maybe we might even get some sort of dramatic reunion between All For One and Deku a little later on. But sooner or later, Deku's going to need help. So how do you think the heroes will manage to get Deku a break, or do you think Bakugo is going to wake up and be the one to help Deku fight Shigaraki and bring this battle to a close? And
he's gonna need some backup.
Shigaraki, what do you think is going to happen with All For One? Do you think he's going to go to the Deku area carrying Ochako or doing whatever he plans on doing, or will him and Deku actually never meet face to face again? All these possibilities and more are what we're looking forward to in My Hero Academia chapter 376. I would check back either tonight or early tomorrow for the full spoiler summary. We love doing those videos late at night sometimes when we have to. But to make it easier for yourself to not miss that video, please hit that subscribe button and turn all notifications on. Usually I am one of the fastest on YouTube to get the spoilers out. Take that bet on me, and I promise it's going to work out, and we'll have it up before anyone else does, so you can make the right choice and hit the subscribe button and just join the Pineapple Army. With that said, I might be coming back a little later or tomorrow to talk about...
Okay, alright, that's enough talk. So yeah, Ochako's getting a new Quirk awakening. Suyu's death might happen, or it may not. Who knows? But rest in peace. If you know, I'm gonna miss her. And Deku's gonna run out of time. I don't know what All For One's gonna probably do. Either way of those two, I mean, eventually Bakugo's gonna have to wake up eventually because he's getting healed by Edge Shot. I don't know how long it's gonna take him because he's been doing it, the past few chapters that we've seen. But he's doing the best he can. I don't know how long it takes, but yeah. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see more until hopefully probably tomorrow of what's going to happen next on My Hero Academia the chapters. Alright, so make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and if you want to see, be notified to more videos, make sure you turn on notification. Alright, so that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.